Hello and welcome to As the CMMC Churns. I'm Matt Titcomb, the CEO of Peak InfoSec. Peak InfoSec is an authorized CMMC third-party assessment organization, and I am also a CMMC certified assessor. This episode of As the CMMC Churns, we're continuing kind of our specific deep dives into security requirements, and this one we are going to look at 333, review and update logged events. Now, right off the bat, let's make sure everybody's clear about something. And there's a very large common myth and misperception about this that causes many OSCs and organizations that are prepping for CMMC to completely screw this one up. 333 has nothing to do with identifying potential events that indicate a compromise. Everybody thinks that when you read the actual requirement, review and update logged events, I'm going to go review all the events and go see what's going on. Wrong. Has nothing to do with that. So, if that's what you're thinking, throw it away, sit back, listen, and learn how to do it right. Sorry, guys. This is one that many organizations screw up, and it's actually one of our tests to see if you actually know what you're doing right. So, let's hit key definitions. So again, we're reviewing and updating logged events. So what's an event? It's an observable event occurrence in the system. These are all your system logs, audit logs. These can also be events of somebody coming in your door. Visitor logs. There's all types of visitor things that are potentially events, but we're primarily talking IT systems here. And then that log is that record of events occurring within your organization systems and networks. So again, we tend to focus a little bit more on IT at this point in time. Now, when we look at that definition, we now then jump to the discussion here. Now, if anybody is still confused about the fact that this has nothing to do with identifying malicious activity, read the first sentence. The intent of this requirement is to periodically reevaluate which logged events will continue to be included in your list of events to be logged. That's it. This is actually a requirement for you to have a procedure to review your log sources. That's all. Now, this again is nothing to do with identifying if there's a potential indicator of compromise. This is because log sources change over time. Anybody who's ever gone from a one OS version to another major version of the OS, new logs are created, new log data is created, especially on firewalls. They're updating and tweaking the content that's in them all the time. So, especially when you go from, like a version 9 to a version 10, you need to check and make sure things are still functioning as operated as intended. Now, the primary use case, you're going to review your audit log sources on a periodic basis to make sure they still are what you need. Again, DoD defines periodic as not to exceed annually. So be ready to have proof that you're doing this. Review the audit log sources after significant change. Again, you've gone from PAN-OS 9 to 10. Stuff changes. Make sure it's still working. Now, when it comes down to the actual dependencies and related requirements to this, if you watch the previous one, hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge on 331, you would know that now in the context as we're looking at 333, 331 precedes 333. Why? In 331, you are creating your system log sources. You're identifying the specifications. You've done your initial setup to make sure the audit log sources are generating the results in the audit logs that you need. That's the point of 331. Now, that's the preceding thing, but that's not necessarily what kicks it off. The real kickoff is 343. So you need to track, review, and approve or disapprove changes. Many times outside of that annual review to make sure what you've got is working, you're going to get changes coming through your system that are going to drive changes to the type of content you're gathering. 343 then kicks off 333 to make sure everything's still functioning, which then in turn feeds to 341. You've got to establish this as a part of your baseline. Again, 331 is a subpart of 341 for the audit logging components. So don't forget that. Now, 341, in this case, kicks all the way back down to assessment objective 333C. Event types being logged are updated based upon the review. Why? Because in 331 this is where you're generating your audit log source, the specifications, and everything else that's needed. So again, keep this in context in mind of when you're looking at 333. This is kind of the dynamic that's in play that you should be prepping for and getting ready for. Now, related to this, again, as we jump to the assessment objectives, you are literally looking for an approved procedure. Remember, drafts do not count, of when to review audit logs. So a process, a procedure for that can simply be in a policy or procedure. It could be in your configuration management plan. There's lots of ways you can answer this one for exactly how and when you do that. Then, bravo, are you actually following the procedure? Can you demonstrate you've done your reviews? And then are the event types being logged updated based on the review? Now, there may be some change. Everything's up to date, everything's current, you're good to go. Awesome. That's what we're looking for in the types of evidence. Now, when we then in turn look at this from interviews, if you've done your job right, you could actually do this one completely on examination. Again, tell us the story with all the artifacts. Tell us the procedure. Show us when you followed the procedure. Show us if there has been a change on how that change was annotated, etc. I can sign this one off just on documentation. Now, likewise, this is something we're not likely to test. This is more of an administrative process, and we're not going to make you undergo a change to do this one. So typically, this is examination interview only. Now, evidentiary objects related to this one are going to be your audit and accountability policy, procedures addressing the audit records. And it's really that procedures, system security plan, again, it's always in there because that's kind of the pointer of where all of this stuff is really going to come from. Now, the primary configuration documentation is that list of organization-defined event types to be logged. We covered this in 331, so please feel free to take a look back at 331. And then the supplemental artifacts. Hey, are the updated audit logs working? Etc. Incident reports. Again, this is where it may feed into, oh, well, we did this change and we suddenly started seeing stuff. Okay, stuff happens. You'd be surprised at how things happen when you start updating your data. Now, let's sum up. Bottom line is 333 has nothing to do with identifying potential events that indicate a compromise. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Please, again, we run into this one all the time in assessments. People don't read the discussion, and then they don't go look at the assessment objectives to understand this requirement. It has nothing to do with actually looking at audit logs. 333 is that feedback loop to make sure your audit log sources in 331 are working as identified. It is literally that. That is the entire point of this one requirement. And then, hey, you can do this on an annual basis, and I would recommend doing that, or after a major component change. Again, upgrading to a major OS version, etc. So again, I'm Matt Titcomb from Peak InfoSec. Thank you for joining us on this As the CMMC Churns, and we will see you next time.